It was a difficult close, kind of a wild time in the market right now. Things are swirling around and people are unsure. So that definitely added to it, but it's a property with some issues, but just so much potential. And if you can come in and solve problems, then that's where your reward is. And that's where you can make money for yourself and your investors. And that's what we're really excited about doing.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. Hope you're having a great week. We got a great guest with us today. Big Kev is joining us. My partner, Kevin Waymire, our asset manager, is on the call today. Kevin, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah. What's going on with you this week? How was your, I guess we just got through Memorial Day weekend. So
yeah, man. Every weekend, every Memorial Day weekend, we go out to Indianapolis for the Indy 500. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, me and a couple of buddies have been doing that for a little over 15 years now. And it's our one weekend to make sure we always get together and see each other and have a little bit of fun. So we just got done with that and jumping back into the work week, which has been fun and exciting, especially with our new property that we just took on. So, we've been busy. We've been off and running just as fast as those Indy cars, I guess. So
yeah. We'll say, we were camping over the weekend, just camping in our own backyard. Had a lot of fun, didn't get much sleep. So, catching up on that. And yeah, you're right, man. I mean, it was great having a 3-day weekend. You and I both enjoyed that, took Monday off, but man, it just made us a little bit more busy Tuesday, Wednesday, and going forward. And so you mentioned the new property. We just took down another 95 unit apartment building, closed just a week and a half ago. This is our first apartment that we've purchased in the Cincinnati market. So we're really excited about that. Everything we own so far has been up in Dayton, a market just north of Cincinnati, if you're not familiar with Southwest Ohio. But we've been wanting to get into Cincinnati. It's a little better market. It's more competitive. More institutional buyers there, just more competition. So it's harder to get in, but we were able to get in. So we want to cover that deal, just basically take you from, finding it to closing it a week and a half ago. So I'll get us going, Kevin, because this is kind of neat how I feel like God provided in this one, because after we closed on the 96 unit that we did in December of last year, Wayndale Circle, which we did, Kevin and I did a podcast episode on that as well. Kevin and I were talking, and really we've gotten our last two deals from one brokerage, from one broker here in the Cincinnati Dayton area. And I said, man, as the guy that's supposed to be finding deals, I need to have more broker relationships. So I started reaching out to other brokers, and I set up a couple breakfasts with two pretty prominent brokers in Cincinnati. Even went up to Columbus to meet with some. It was less than a month later that broker, he had one listed. I think he kind of said, hey, Lee, this is one you'd probably be interested in. Now, it was listed, so we were not the only ones. I think actually initially there were 16 offers. So I don't mean to say that just because I met with him, then he gave us this off-market deal. That was not the case at all. But I will say that as we got into the best and final, I actually know somebody that I'm pretty close with, knew the other party in on the best and final, and kind of found out that his experience of the best and final round was much different than ours. And it became pretty clear that this broker really pushed for us to be the ones to take down the deal. And we were. So that was a big deal, just developing that relationship in just a month, but, really putting our best foot forward. Sounds like from the information that we've received that he really pushed for us. So that was pretty cool how that deal came down. Yeah, but very competitive. As I said, I think 16 offers. I think they brought a bunch of people into the best and final. And then honestly, there was even kind of another best and final round after that. So very competitive. But we did push hard because we really saw a lot of upside in this deal. We did not buy it from the long-term kind of mom and pop owners, but the guys before us did, and they had only owned this property for a year and a half. So they had really got it started. They bought this property. It's about 2/3 one-bed units and then a third 2 beds. The one-bed units were renting for about $450 and the 2 beds $550 when the seller that we bought from, when he bought it, a year and a half ago. So they brought in professional property management just a year ago. They tried to run it for 6 months, I think, themselves. Brought in professional property management, started really seeing huge rent increases, turning the property around, getting the delinquents caught up, getting people out that shouldn't be there, getting people off the month to month and getting them on the leases. But then when they did that, getting big rent bumps. So really what we saw was the sellers did a great job of finding a property that had really been neglected. Some real mom and pop owners that were just cool with just keeping rent exactly where they were. And they had really completed what I would call phase 1 of the repositioning of this property. And then actually, they even kind of looks like they kind of ran out of capital. And so they felt like, man, we can see the potential here now, but we don't have the capital set aside to complete phase 2 and phase 3 of this repositioning and bring this property up to its full potential. Let's go ahead and take advantage of the market, sell, and let the next guys come in and complete phase 2 and phase 3. So that's how we saw it. We saw, man, they've done a great job of phase 1, and there's a ton of momentum here. The average rent is still far, far below today's market rent. So let's go in there and let's complete phase 2 and phase 3 of the repositioning. That's kind of what I saw in it. Kevin, what are a couple other things, some real attractive features of this property that we saw?
Yeah, well, I just kind of want to rewind just a moment as far as getting into the best and final. One thing that you forgot to mention was you actually had a one-on-one call with the owner that was selling the building, right? So it was down to 2 people. Basically, I feel like we won the deal off of that phone call. I always remember the broker saying like how passionate you were about, finding the deal, bringing this deal through. Being able to close in the deal that we've closed on something similar to that size already. We already have, banking and things like that. So it really is a testament to like, hey, everything that we've done, I think all that was an accumulation of you coming to that, that call, with way more confidence than you probably already have had to really win over that owner. It reminded him of like how we got started in the drive and, the market knowledge and the things of that nature. So I really feel like that was a big turning point. It wasn't only just that breakfast or that lunch, it was, always you following up, always getting the stuff to them right away. So that just shows, hey, how determined you are to close this deal, because a lot of sellers, they want the deal closed. They don't want this to go, 30, 60 days and be like, oh, financing fell through. We didn't get the raise that we needed to, and so on and so forth. So,
good point. Yeah, you're right. And then the other piece was that we did hard money. But I will say, I think you make which is big. But I'll say, Kevin, I think the other group did too. We were not alone in that. So I think your point is valid and well said. That there's been a lot to develop a confidence and a passion behind this, and give the sellers an assurity that we are a group. One thing I always tell brokers, we have never, and this is still true, we have never had something under contract and not closed on it. And we'll get more into this. This was the hardest close that we've ever had. But we did not give up, and we got the deal closed. And that's what we're committed to doing. And I think, to your point, in the conversation and in my conversations with the broker, they could tell that was going to be the case with us, that we were going to make it happen.
Yeah. But to answer your question, what we love to buy is all brick buildings with pitched roof, shingle roof. We like to buy buildings, that are grouped together anywhere from, 8 to, maybe 25 units under one roof. And there's different reasons for that. A lot of them are, from a maintenance standpoint, or if you have a problem child under, one of your roofs, but you have 6 other roofs where, nobody knows what's going on. There's a lot. So we had that. And then the potential and the upside. Even today, the rents that they're getting today are are just something that we didn't even think or even underwrite for. So tons of potential. And then having a property manager on site, we had a taste of that with our 96 unit in Huber Heights, and we really love that model. Having somebody on site, making sure that somebody's walking the property, they know the residents, they understand what's going on, and they're dedicated to your property, knowing the ins and outs. And I feel like we found a really good on-site property manager along with the property manager. We can kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah. Kind of what you're getting into, the location. It's the east side of Cincinnati, which is a growing area. There's a lot of space out there. The east side, that there's a lot of room to grow. And this property is just 15 minutes outside the outer belt of Cincinnati. So really 45 minutes outside of downtown, but that part of the outer belt is just booming. So it's really 15 minutes from a booming area, really almost 10 minutes from kind of this booming area. And to show that the industry just continues pushing out, Nestle Purina built a puppy chow pet food distribution plant, a $550 million plant right in this town, in this little town. So people follow jobs follow people. You can tell it's going out this area, that this area is exploding. And that's why rent is increasing, because demand is increasing, because people are moving to this area. So tons of potential. So, get the property under contract, have our offer accepted, get under contract. There wasn't too much back and forth there. Not too much redlining in the purchase sales agreement, the PSA. We did ask for a couple key things, and they agreed to those. So that was pretty painless. Then we get into the due diligence period. You mentioned the property manager already. This was a new property manager to us. Town Properties in Cincinnati, very well known, very big. From our view in the underwriting, expensive property manager, but also looking at the T12, the trailing 12 months of the profit and loss statements, we could see that Town was a big part of again, completing phase one of the repositioning and really turning this property around and driving revenue, all the things that we want to see our property management company do. So we could see they were doing a great job. So part of our due diligence was not just on the property, but on the property management company, because we have to decide, right, Kevin, whether we want to keep them or not. We already have property management that we are pretty happy with up in Dayton, but they are not in Cincinnati. So we knew we were looking for a new property management company to take this. And it's like, you'd love to keep the property manager on if they're doing a good job. But part of our due diligence was to see if they indeed were. So again, I dig into the financials a lot. Kevin's more boots on the ground, but I'll tell you, as I just mentioned, from the financials, Town looked to be doing a good job. They were really driving revenue. They're expensive. So they do, they have payroll, they have administrative costs, they have marketing costs, and then they charge a 4% property management fee. And you look at all those costs and it was pretty expensive, but you look at the NOI and there's no arguments there, because they are driving NOI. They made the sellers a lot of money. You look where Town took over to where these people sold to us. They did very, very well. So looking at that and doing the due diligence on the property management company from a financial side, I looked at that and said, we want them to continue doing that for us. So the next step was to get out on the property, to do the, we always have a day or two of heavy due diligence. We have our trusted inspector, Ryan, had him out, but then the property management's on the property. And so again, we're kind of digging into them a little bit and looking at the property with them, but kind of investigating the property, investigating them. So why don't you talk about that day a little bit, Kevin, and what that was like, and some things that we saw about the property that we liked, maybe didn't like. Like
property management was on site, so they were actually knocking on the doors. They actually brought on some other on-site property managers to come out. So there was the regional manager is kind of how they're set up, and then they have on-site property managers who report to the regional manager. Everybody was on site, right? So that's very helpful. And when you are knocking on doors and people are answering, they're talking to them by name, they're having small little conversations. This is very much a good, kind of like a good old boy, hometown kind of feel. where the reputation, is more word of mouth than marketing. And I think that was what I initially saw, going through the walkthrough, looking and vetting property management, is they loved the on-site person. They had ties to Williamsburg. They were either born or grown up there or something to that fact. So there was a lot of hometown pride there. That you could definitely see, and a lot of care. And I think that's why the rents have also gone up a lot. One thing that you and I have to bring this up because it absolutely blew our minds, is they had different levels of rehab. And I think it was like platinum, gold, and bronze. I think it was.
Something like that.
Every time you're going through this, you're always learning something new. And we learned about these things called cinch kits. So essentially, you keep the base of the cabinet. You call a company, they send out all new hardware, hinges, doors, and paint. And you paint the base of the cabinets and you put the doors on. And you're talking about making new cabinets, let's call it, $1,800 for new cabinets. You can have all this done for $600 or $700, and they look brand new. So that was a big game changer that we've actually brought to some other properties. So they, I also say that because of their creative ways of thinking. It's not kind of a one-stop shop of how we do everything. They're very creative. They talked about borrowing or buying, from other town property management,
bringing in appliances that other properties threw out that were fine, but they wanted stainless steel, and this isn't a stainless steel appliance property.
No.
So bringing over the white and black that other properties, and so this property was getting them for free.
And the way that I looked about that was like, hey, they really do. They may be expensive, but they really do want to drive the cost down in other areas to essentially pay for themselves.
Exactly.
Justify
their cost.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I mean, after that, I felt very comfortable of how they were doing things and justifying that. Now, as far as the units themselves, knocking on the doors, I mean, this is, as you know, and you're going to talk about, I mean, this is going to be one of the biggest overhauls of apartments that we've had to date. They have outdoor decks. So it's 3 levels, 12 units per building. They have 3 levels, and the top 2 levels actually have balconies or decks that they can walk out onto. So those all needed to be replaced. New windows, gutters, downspouts, boilers, water heaters,
parking lot, driveway, doors, entry doors.
A
lot.
I mean, a lot. And the thing that, keep on going back, I mean, property management, hey, they came prepared with quotes already done, things of that nature. So, really, from a property management standpoint, we didn't look very far past town properties because they didn't really give us a reason to. We still had the conversations, but from our standpoint, blew it out of the water. So those were kind of some of the things that I saw about what we love about the property, and easy entry. Go in, down 1 flight to the bottom floor, up 1 flight to the second, 2 flights to the 3rd floor. So very easy access for the residents, which people love to see. And we know from our experience that people love easy access to their apartments, and they have that in those buildings.
Since I got to talk to the seller, he asked me, hey, do you have any questions for me? And I asked him about the property management, and he raved about them. And then I found out from the broker, and then town mentioned this as well. He's buying another property and he's using town again. And so that speaks volumes when, somebody's been working with them for a year and can say, I love them and I'm going to use them again. So that was another good reference from him. And then just, on site, our inspector, I would say, Kevin, overall, we didn't find anything unexpected. Like you mentioned, we knew there was going to be a big rehab budget. We really, from the beginning, we kind of had this $1.25 million number in mind. And so, That's kind of what was in our underwriting, and talking with property management, talking with the broker, looking through the material that we received as we were looking at the property, and then just doing our walkthrough, everything. That's how we came up with that number. And so the inspector, a big part of having him out is helping us determine how are we going to spend that 1.25 million, and is that number about right? And really, I would say we came away with, yeah, that number is good. And here's a lot of the things, and pretty much all the things that we thought we were going to spend money on. The inspector agreed with that, and then to your point, town agreed with that. They had already had quotes on some of the things that we knew we were going to have to do. So that was good. So I would say the inspection day, what you want to have happen, or what you don't want to have happen is to find things that you didn't expect, to find big things that you didn't expect. You can find some small stuff, but you don't want to find big things that you didn't expect, $100,000, $200,000 expense that you did not expect. That really throws off your underwriting, right? And so we came out of that inspection day with none of that. And if anything, I think both of us said, we were surprised to the upside after our inspection day. And a big part of it was everything you just went over with, really feeling good about town and their management of the property, their connection with the residents. I mean, you can learn so much from your residents during your inspection day. It's such an important part. I mean, I know our one property, everybody was talking about the windows. So we knew we got to do new windows. And that was, the Alpine that we've talked about that we closed in Kettering last year. But you'll go to some properties and the residents are just going off, like, every other one is talking about how their maintenance requests aren't answered. And they'll tell you that, right? Because they want somebody to know that because they're frustrated. And you just didn't get that with Williams Pointe. So, we could tell that the property management's doing a good job. So inspection went well. When you get through that point, then you don't find anything that tells you, hey, we need to run, we need to pull out, we need to adjust. We didn't find anything. So it's full steam ahead. And so at this point, it's time to raise the capital. It's time to go to the investors and say, hey, we have a property under contract. We already notified them that we had a property under contract, but we're not really ready to start accepting people's funds, bringing in capital until we've been through the inspection. So you get through the inspection, that was within the first 10 days that we get through that. Cause hey, it's a 60-day close. We got to move fast. This is it's a hustle. It's a sprint for these 2 months. So we go to the investors. We had them all lined up. That's a whole nother show we could do on how you prepare the investors, how you get a list going. We're doing this all the time. We're putting out content every day. We're, phone calls all the time, reaching out to investors, taking referrals, things like that, to have an investor list that's ready. And then we can go to them and say, have a property under contract, went through the inspection, everything looks good, we're ready to roll. Are you ready to partner with us? So then we start bringing in investors. I would say that went pretty well. We kind of got off to a really hot start, which felt good, but we had a couple times where we stalled, and we have a lot of people that are interested in investing with us. A lot of people that want to invest in apartment buildings, a lot of people that want to invest with Threefold. But when it's time to send your money, it's a different thing. And a lot of it just comes down to people being ready, right, Kev? I mean, we talked to a lot of people that, hey, you know what? I really want to do it. And 3 months ago was a great time. And for whatever reason, hey, we're putting in a pool this summer. Hey, actually, we're looking at moving. Hey, my job's not so secure. Just whatever it is, it's just not a good time. Hey, now my stock portfolio is down 30%. If that's the case for some people. So it was definitely a struggle. It's our biggest raise. We raised 1.75 million for this one. That's 20% of the down payment on the purchase price of the property, which was 5.85 million. For these 95 units, and then 20% on our rehab loan, which was 1.25 million. So, and then all the closing costs that are associated, and then having reserves left over. So the total raise was 1.75 million. It was tough. I mean, we would push for it. Now you don't have to raise all that before closing. So actually, even after closing, we do have some investors that are trickling in, and we continue to raise, but you have to raise the vast majority of it in order to close, right? Because most of it is that 20% down payment on the purchase price and the rehab loan. So got through that. The other part is the financing. And this was by far the biggest struggle that we've had with financing. And I always say financing is always terrible, getting your financing set up. As everybody knows, these past few months have been crazy for interest rates. And so as interest rates rise, banks, tend to tighten up and they raise the interest rate on you. So we actually did have our interest rate increase on us. We actually did have to leave more money in reserves. So we just had to kind of keep giving more information, and they kept asking for more, and we're just getting a little squirrely on us. So it was a difficult close for us for sure with the financing. We did have to extend. And when you have to extend, what we had to do, which is often the case, you have to put up more earnest money, and that money is hard, which means you don't get it back if you don't close. So making us more anxious on extending the closing. But we just continue to push through that. Like we said from the beginning, we'll tell any broker that, any seller that we are going to push through. When we get a property under contract, we're going to keep pushing until it closes. We're going to make it happen. And we got to the closing table. One other thing I'd like to mention, Kevin, have you just touch on a little bit, is knowing that we've got this big rehab budget. This is something, as we get toward the end and we realize we are going to close, it's just a matter of when. It's time to start talking to contractors and getting things set up. And so you started doing that in a big way and working with town to do that before we even close, to have contractors ready to hit the ground running day one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have your top tier things that have to be done. So ours were number one, windows and sliding doors. I mean, that was the number one thing. Gutters and downs needed to be done because, if you don't get water away from your building, from experience, we know it just runs right down to that side, down the side and into the unit. So roofs, originally we went in thinking that the roofs needed to be done. Probably not so much now. I think we still got 3 to 5 years on the life of the roofs. But I mean, this is the power of, podcasting and things like that, because the guy that we actually went with is named Thomas Ellison, and he's with Pure Property Solutions. And he actually listened to Waynedale podcast that we did just like this. And I talked about, in this section as well, about the contractors. And, I jokingly said, lack of a better term, one throat to choke, things like that. And Thomas actually called in from that, said, hey, I work for this company. We went out to lunch, just kind of like what you were talking about with your broker relationship. We found a lot of things that we had in common about just doing the right thing, making the right decisions, making the tough decision when it's not, the most appealing decision to make. Built a relationship up with him. We had other relationships that I had good relationships, and he was still competing, and he knew he was competing. But for me and you, it was very important that we went with one company to do a majority of the work. And Thomas came in, and not only did he come in to talk about what we needed, but how we can improve about things and really finding solutions to the problems. And one of them was the decks. The decks, I think if we had one thing that was more surprising than any, the decks were way worse than what we initially thought.
Right.
So he came up with a very creative solution, was able to get it in and under our budget that we had. That kind of won the deal for us, is his solution to the decking that made everybody feel safe, that this was a good product moving forward. So that is huge going in with your budget, knowing what you're going to do, who the money is going to be allocated to, and who will be willing to work with you, because with a rehab budget, as you may or may not know, you actually have to get reimbursed for that money from the bank. So how easy is those contractors going to make it for you? Well, with pricing to get your reimbursement back, your rehab money, because sometimes you could be floating, anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 out of your account. So this was, now talking out loud and bringing this all together, it was challenging from a lot of aspects, but again, when you have a good team, a good product, you're able to get it done.
Absolutely. When it's a good property, it's worth it. Right. And if, so many people say, like, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And if there wasn't a big reward, it wouldn't be so hard. But yeah, just thinking back to Thomas, I love how that happened and how God kind of worked through that and brought us together. And he's such a good guy, and just how he listened to the podcast and reached out to us, and what a good relationship we have. And I love when he said to you, Kevin, I'm just trying to be your one throat to choke.
Yeah.
Said, all right. I like that, So
well, he changed it up. I think he says, I just want to be your one point of accountability, or something like that.
That sounds a little better when you're the guy on the other end of it. We'll call it a throat to choke, though. He can call it a point of accountability. No, man. Yeah. So, I think to your point, this was difficult. It was a difficult close. It's a different, it's kind of a wild time in the market right now. Things are swirling around and people are unsure. So that definitely added to it, but it's a property with some issues, but just so much potential. And if you can come in and solve problems, then that's where your reward is. And that's where you can make money for yourself and your investors. And that's what we're really excited about doing. So I guess on that note, man, let's get back to it. Let's get back to work on Williams Pointe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, and looking forward to, hopping back on a little bit later and showing the progress that we have.
Yeah, we'll give an update on the CapEx and the renovation and the repositioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good, man. Take care, Kev.
All right, you too.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.